Okay, this week's SC Standout is the Gaggenau CX492612. It's the 400 series 36-inch full-service induction cooktop. Now, it's not much to look at, which I think is by design. If you look at the pictures on the Gaggenau website, it drops into islands and countertops without much fanfare. But it's only when you interact with it that you realize it's not a placemat, but a B-2 stealth bomber, because you don't realize it's there until it blows you away. Anthony?
Gaggenau is well known for doing things at an expert level in appliances, and this cooktop is no different. Love that John picked that as the standout for this week. It really is, as we have induction at our house, we're really happy with our induction cooktop, but there's definitely moments where like, oh, I wish it did this, or you're using different pan sizes, and because we have fixed pan sizes, we have no option on this, so you're kind of limited in some cooking. There's no limits with this cooktop. I mean, you can do up to 6 pans, lots of different sizes, your boost modes, your timing. The timer mode is also a really underutilized feature. So this is really all things induction done really, really well. John, what do you think?
Yeah, so obviously I'm always dealing with ulterior motives here. When most people and shoppers hear the word freedom and it's associated to cooktops, they're always going to think Thermador, and honestly, that's fair. It's definitely a step up from these fixed zone units that everybody else has. But honestly, depending upon the customer and the way that they're going to use it, the limitations of this cooktop could actually start showing up for you in a couple of different ways. And if we look at it, the first one is power. With Thermador, once you get past, 2 or 3 zones cooking at once, you'll actually start to see those heat levels start to drop a little bit, because that system is actually splitting the power between the zones to stay within its overall limit. With Gaggenau, you actually keep the full output across multiple pans. So when you're adding or removing a pan or anything like that, it's actually automatically redistributing power, so nothing cools off or lags behind for you, and which means that while you're doing some other things, you don't have to babysit that to make sure that it's working the way that it should. The other thing is bigger cookware, right? We know that Thermador has that bridge that kind of goes down the center of the pan that nobody likes to talk about. I mean, the center of the cooktop that nobody likes to talk about. And while that segment certainly does work, but if you have that big griddle or teppanyaki or something like that, you're usually going to get those 2 hot bands on the outside with that cooler strip that's running down that middle. With Gaggenau reads basically the full size of the pan for you. I believe it's somewhere, I think it's 13 by 21 is the max that it'll read. And it builds one continuous heating field underneath it. So the entire surface is cooking evenly. So there's no seams and no cold zones or anything like that you might experience with the Thermador one. And the other part is that it truly remembers what you're doing. If you've ever shifted a pan around with Thermador, that cooktop usually picks it back up pretty easily, but sometimes you actually have to reselect a level or a timer when they had them or anything like that. Gaggenau tracks every pan and shows them live on your display. So you can lift and move and set it down again, and it's going to remember exactly where you left off, and it's going to keep cooking for you, which is cool. The displays, I have no problem with the Thermador display. I mean, it's simple icons, it's fine for the basics, but once you get, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed this, but once you get like 3 or 4 things going on that cooktop, it's kind of hard to tell what's what. And with Gaggenau, they actually have a full digital map of your cooking surface like we talked about before. So you're seeing each pan, its level, so you always know which one that you're controlling. And then this one isn't really a knock on Thermador, but it's actually a cool ad for Gaggenau. It's a value add. Is Thermador doesn't really, it's great for general performance, but there's no real built-in way to regulate pot temperature directly. But Gaggenau, and a lot of people probably don't know this, it actually comes with a click-on sensor that measures the actual pot temperature for you. So that means you can hold sauces and melt chocolates and things like that without having to really kind of guess. So this all brings me to, if you think about why customers step up from a fixed induction to the Thermador Freedom, it's really based off of one or more of these 3 promises, right? That you can move it anywhere, that you can keep the power, and that it can really fit any pan, right? Thermador is a really great first step into that world. But Gaggenau is what that concept looks like kind of fully developed, right? So I would encourage you to continue to use Thermador to teach that concept. but you should be using Gaggenau to really prove it out in its entirety.
Now, I'm not going to name any names, but I've heard people mispronounce it Gaggenau, Anthony. It's a German brand. Gaggenau is a German brand, so it's pronounced Gaggenau, as in how now, brown cow, Gaggenau. If I hear someone say Gaggenau one more time, you're going to get the jar, okay? You're going to have to put in your funds into the mispronunciation jar. It is, you know what, we're going to have to get a new, bigger jar soon, but Gaggenau, Gaggenau.
So, Tom, how do you say amena?
Gotta go. See ya.